All right, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Jake Blood.
Yancy Johnson.
Karen Johnson.
Tim Johnson.
Warren Rogers.
Doris Rogers.
I'm the official.
Come on. Alright, so I'm going to give my speech on an object or a concept, but for my speech I'm going to kind of combine the two and give it on the object and the concept. So it's going to be on a camper and life in a camper. So before I begin, I'm going to go ahead and cite my references. So first off, we have Forest River RV, which is the company who manufactured this camper. And so I got most of my information about the camper on that website. The next website is Primu Camper RV dealership in Lafayette, which is where this specific camper came from. And then my third site is apartments.com, which I compared prices for living in a camper versus living in apartments in Natchitoches. Alright, so basically my purpose of this speech is to inform y'all about an object and a concept. Specifically, it's going to be this camper, which is the Wildwood X-Lite 241 QBXL. And basically what I'm going to be telling y'all is living in a camper is like living in a luxury apartment that you can travel across the country with. You can live in it in the middle of the woods, you can live in it in the city, and it's something you can take with you, unlike a regular apartment building. So despite your initial thoughts, living in a camper is not, you know, what you may think as like a dirty, rundown place, but it's more of, you know, a luxury apartment that you can take with you wherever you want to go. And I mean, basically, who wouldn't want that for themselves? You know, live in a nice apartment that's yours after you're done paying for it. Mm-hmm. So, as a college student here at Northwestern, I had to think of 3 different things in which I had to consider when buying a place. So my first was cost effectiveness, and then comfortability, and then also convenience. So with cost effectiveness, you know, I can't just spend all the money I want on a nice house, because I have to think of utilities, I have to think of rent, I have to think of insurance, I have to think of all these different things. And so all of that went into my decision to buy a camper. Secondly, I had to think of the comfortability, and in that is I don't want to necessarily live in somebody else's house and have to worry about them or what they're going to be doing and all of this other stuff. And lastly is convenience. I don't want to have other roommates in like an apartment building on campus that I have to depend on to keep their stuff clean, keep their end of the deal up, pay their rent, anything like that. So me, I would rather live on my own, depend on myself, and be able to not worry about anyone else. So those are my 3 things that I had to consider when purchasing my camper. So the first was cost effectiveness, and I started off looking up the more obvious choice, which would be buying a apartment off campus. And I looked it up to be about $400 a month for a nice apartment, and that's not including any furniture or any safety deposit or anything else like that I would have to consider. And then secondly, I moved on to nicer things like your own motel room or hotel room, and those just got too outrageous in price. So my last option, and my most favorable, was a camper. And so those 2 things when considering a camper: the cost of the camper, which you could finance, and also the cost of a camper slot, which I checked in many different places around town, and I got a good deal on one with a family friend who I could also work for to help pay for that rent. And so that was a big deal for me, as not only was it a cheaper rent, this spot, but I could also work off some of the rent per month. And so that helped in making my decision. So the next thing was comfortability. And over the past 2 years of spending my college career at military colleges, I learned how to become self-dependent. I learned when to work when I wanted to work. You know, I work late and I wake up early some mornings. And so sometimes that's inconvenient for other people. If you show up at their house at 11 o'clock because you just got off work, or if you're up at 5:30, you know, and you're turning on lights and you're doing all this other stuff, you know, maybe they're not up, and you don't want to make them feel like they have to meet your needs. And so that was something else that went into my mind is I had a few family friends that offered to let me stay for this coming semester, and I just didn't want to put them in a bind. So lastly is convenience. And also spending my last 2 years at a military college, I had 2 roommates in so it's 3 of us in a 2-person room. And for anyone who's ever done that, they know how tight that can get. Well, luckily at a military college, the standards were really high for cleanliness, and so our roommates had to keep their room clean. Well, in a normal apartment, those standards aren't the same, and I'm a very clean person, so I would want my roommates to remain that same standard of cleanliness. But I can't always expect that if they're paying their own rent. So that was another thing that went into my decision to buy a camper. So basically, in conclusion, I knew that buying a camper would not only be the most cost-effective way to live this semester, it would also be the most comfortable for me. I would have my own space, I would have my own kitchen, a bedroom in the back, and a bathroom on the other end. I would have my own table, I'd have my own radio, all my own things. I wouldn't have to depend on anyone else. And also, for convenience, it would just be so easy for me to have my own place. I could move it when I wanted to. It's mine when I'm done with college. I can move it whenever I get a job. I can move to another slot if I needed to. And I'm just not wasting my money on rent on a normal apartment building. So next time you see someone in a camper, don't think they're living the rough life, because they could be living the life they chose to live. So that's basically my speech on a concept, and now I'll show you a few things about the camper itself that makes it such a luxury. So a camper has a full kitchen. So we have a full freezer, it has a nice sized fridge, it has all these different stuff that you would want. You know, I have a 3-burner stove, I have a full oven, and a microwave, a vent fan, I got a double sink. So anything that a nice apartment would have for a bathroom, I have. Back here's my bathroom. It has a full shower, a toilet, and a sink. So everything a bathroom needs to have. I have a nice table right here to do all my homework, to eat. I have storage up top on both ends. I have nice radio to play DVDs and CDs. I have booths. And then I have this couch down here, which are represented by my grandparents. It also folds out into a bed so that you can also sleep another person. And then in the back here, which is actually the front of the camper, is my bedroom. So it's it's a queen size bed. And so that's about it as far as all the amenities. It has some nice other qualities about it as far as the wood cabinets, and it has like spice racks and lots of storage. And outside it has all power awnings and power jacks and power everything else. So basically for my camper, as far as all of the necessities that comes with that and all of the luxuries it has as well. So if there's no further questions, then we are good.